Good afternoon and welcome to Enduring Journey to Bliss. My name is Deanne and I wanted to share an update on this orchid. I purchased it from the Lowe's. It was on their dead plant rack. And so it was probably only like $5. They had it marked over half off. And so I purchased it, brought it home, and I took it out of its moss growing media. They had it growing in at the Lowe's, and transitioned it to waterculture. I shared that in a previous video with all of you. So I will add this to that same playlist, and you'll see this update I'm doing today. And if you care to, you can see what brought us to this point. So this particular orchid, it has really pretty yellow blooms when it is in bloom, and it the petals are like a yellow, and then the inside, I want to call them supples, but I'm not sure if I'm saying the right word. But anyway, the lip part of the orchid is like a pink. So it's very pretty, and it had two blooms on it, two bloom spikes, excuse me, on it. This one and this one. They both were done, and all the green is gone because the crown of the plant reabsorbed all the energy from these spent spikes back down into the crown of the plant. It is putting on a new leaf, as you can see right here. And Phalaenopsis orchids are monopodial orchids. That means they grow from the one crown. So this Phalaenopsis is doing quite well. I want to take a look at the roots. Here's a root here that I'm probably going to remove that velamen right there with you. A lot of the other roots, they look pretty darn healthy. But we'll take a look. This one looks a little bit... Oh no, that's okay. That's not what I thought it was. I'll take that off. But anyway, yeah, so we'll take a look at this together. And I will add this to the playlist for when I first purchased this and brought it home. And like I said, if you'd like, you can take a peek at that. So typically when I bring them home, I will take them out of whatever media they're growing in, whether it's bark or moss, and I will transition them, if I'm going to transition them, to water. I don't always do that. It depends on the orchid. It depends on what's going on in my life. So there are some variables that impact whether I do that or I don't do that with an orchid. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of loosen up some of these. They were kind of all growing up in each other a bit. I'll let them kind of dangle a little bit more freely. I didn't realize they were quite that tangled up. But there we go. So they're kind of loosening up now. It's not quite as a jumbled cluster. But the roots look pretty darn good. These ones they're silver, but they are firm. I mean, those are some healthy roots. So I'm not going to do anything with those. They somehow, the way that the orchid was in the little container, these were not getting as much water as the ones on this side. That's the only reason that these are greener, is they had more water the last time that I watered it, and they're still quite hydrated. When they look this color, they're still very hydrated. When they start to look this color, that's when you need to consider watering them. So there is still some moss in some places. I'm noticing, like this here's a little piece of moss. Since I have this out and I'm looking at it, I will remove any of that. Down in here, this is some leftover moss. I may not be able to remove it. Sometimes the moss is so stuck onto the velamen of the root that you just can't remove it. And trying to force it, you can do damage to the velamen. Here's another little piece. See if I can take that off easy. And yep, that's moss from before. There's another piece of moss from before. And when they go into the water growing environment from the moss, some of this moss, it just holds on to the velamen, but as it soaks, and as you soak, and then you pour the water out, let it dry for 3 or 4 days, then you soak for a day, maybe 2, and you repeat that. It helps to loosen some of the moss that would not come off when you initially started the transition. So I'm just kind of looking over. And here's quite a bit of moss, if I can get this to focus in here for you. So can you see all of this? That is all moss. Yeah. Let me see if I can get that out of there. That was quite a bit of moss that got left in there. So I will go in after I've finished this video, and I'll rinse this off like in the sink area and see if I can get any of this other moss, if it's loose enough that a nice tap stream will remove it or help loosen it up. Like I said, you don't want to rub really or cause damage to the velamen just to get the moss off. A little bit of moss is not going to be truly detrimental. However, you do want to get as much as you can off because it can lead to rot in water. If I was putting this in bark, I wouldn't be quite as concerned. Or I would not feel like I had to remove every piece of moss that I could. So I do see a little bit of mold right up in here. I'm going to go ahead and get my isopropyl alcohol, do a little bit of a spritz. I don't know if you can see that, if it's coming in, but there's a little right in there. White mold. Again, that's kind of what happens. It would be happening even if it was on a tree, if it stayed wet enough. Okay, so I think I removed most of what I'm going to. And these are feeling, and when you squish them, you can feel if there's resistance or not. So these are looking pretty good. The only one I still want to remove, I'm going to lay the orchid down. And I'll lift this end up. I'm going to go ahead and remove this, because you can see the discoloration. You can see down here, it's nice and healthy still. But up here, yeah, that, if I pull on that, just a bit of a tug, that's going to come right off of there. And that would not reheal, or it would not return green, because once it's reached that point, then it's done. There's also a little crack right here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that with my clippers, which have been sanitized with isopropyl alcohol, 70%. I'm just going to cut right above that. And now that end where I cut, that needs to harden before I put this back into any kind of a water environment for growing again. And this will not be watered again for probably 3 days at least. I kind of cycle it. I do a semi-water culture. My orchids do not sit in water more than about 4 days in the summer when it's hot. Maybe up to 5 days. Just kind of depends on your growing environment, where you live, how much humidity there is in your home, or if you have your windows open, those types of things, how much humidity you have where you live and where you grow your plants. So yeah, this looks really quite good at this point. Again, Phalaenopsis are monopodials, which means one growth. So that's what we have for Phalaenopsis orchids. And here we have this beautiful new young leaf that's looking quite healthy. So, oh, and I forgot to show you the tag on this little guy. So this is not the norm. Typically when I get orchids from Lowe's, a Home Depot, grocery store, any place like that, they do not have a identification tag, but this one had an ID tag, which I'm happy for. So this one is a Phalaenopsis Fuller's Gold Princess. All right, so I will finish up. I will clean up here. I will go in. I'll rinse this little baby off, and then I will put it back into its little growing vessel. Now that I've untangled that, I might have to get a bigger growing vessel. But that's okay. But anyway, yeah, I will be putting it back into a growing vessel container. And it will continue to go without water, probably, like I said, another 3 days. So thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this little update on this Phalaenopsis that I purchased from Lowe's. Please take a look at the playlist for this orchid, and you can see how it has changed over the time frame that I've had it. I want to say I purchased it in October of 2025, and we are now in January of 2026. So thanks for viewing. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment area, and have a wonderful day. Take care. Thanks.